Good evening, Dr. Murphy. So I was really tempted to write the paper. It seemed like that would have been a little less difficult. I'm trying to figure out how to use this technology, so I'm going to try to have the Johari's window stuff come up as I'm talking about it if I can figure out how to insert that into the video. But as per your request, I opted for the video submission. So um, I'm looking for the outline. Let me figure out how to find it. Okay. First things first, Johari's window. This was an interesting part of the course because I was certain and sure that I would get very little out of it. And just to review again, I'm going to try to stick this in here if I can figure out how. But things that were in the arena is the obvious discernible traits and characteristics, or at least what folks can perceive based on limited interaction. Caucasian, male, green eyes, I'm a student, I have a full-time job, I'm a veteran, all that stuff was in the arena. Hidden, what a lot of folks don't know, was that I was homeless for a period of close to 3 years. I never finished high school. I'm deathly afraid of failing. I'm very image conscious, despite how I try to despite the persona that I try to carry on with, and the unknown was blank. And blind spots, I put tyrannical and emotionless and unapproachable and intimidating and incredibly high expectations, and mostly as a result of the feedback I got during one of the other assignments. And so I rewrote my Johari's window to include whatever else I had been able to shift around. And the prompt for the video asks about what areas we were able to expand, the hidden areas. And in one of the other assignments, despite all of our conversations where I was pretty adamant about having, or the necessity for me to carry on with this persona and monitor the way that I was perceived and limit people's ability to get past certain walls that I've put up. I went ahead and decided to break some of those down during the course of the semester, mostly as a result of some of the assignments. So I've got a fellow that I work with that I've talked about multiple times in person and in the submissions. And we finally, after knowing each other for close to 10 years, had a conversation about something other than sports and guns. And it was really interesting to find out that he has the same kind of struggles, I guess. And he feels the same kind of pressure to behave a certain way or to interact with other people a certain way. And there's a lot of things about him that I didn't know, and there were apparently a lot of things about me that he didn't know. But again, like I said, I've made a point over the past 20 years of really limiting how much personal information I share with other people, mostly because I always saw it as a liability I guess. Um, so I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily an open canvas in regards to interaction with most folks, but um, I was surprised with the way that information was received, and I think it was healthy for me to to experience that. Um, there was another assignment where we were supposed to ask open-ended questions for feedback, and I found out a lot about myself, and some light was shed on my blind spot. I knew that I had a tendency to push people. I didn't necessarily know that it was perceived as pushing too hard or obsessive or domineering. And initially, I think I was kind of happy to hear that because that was the whole point. But I've also kind of realized that you attract more flies with honey, and so I've had to modify some of my behaviors in my interpersonal relationships and my professional relationships. Have I been able to increase my arena as things are migrating out of my blind spot and hidden area? I would say that yes. And again, not on a massive scale or anything, but there's definitely been progress towards a bit more transparency. And that's all I'm going to say about the Johari's window. I was really disappointed that there wasn't more focus on the Eisenhower matrix, but I'll forgive you because it turns out that it's actually a pretty useful tool. A handful of the elements of the course that were surprisingly revelatory for me was the I don't know, most of them actually, with the exception of fear setting. I was pleasantly surprised that I enjoyed the bulk of the material, and whether through accident or design, I ended up getting a lot out of some portions of the course that I don't know that there was a particular emphasis, but they turned out being incredibly useful for me. I said from the very beginning, the first assignment, that I was actually really looking forward to the journal side of the class because it's very rare that you have like carte blanche in your feedback, and there's this implied or specific pressure for them to be formatted a certain way, and you end up with this kind of pent-up frustration about the course and how it's going, and it was really refreshing for me to be able to just vent on some of them. That's really all it was just being able to say, I really loved all of this except for blank, and it seemed like you actually cared, which was huge. That's another thing that was really surprising. And in one of the assignments, I said that my perception was that as a whole, university faculty were generally disinterested in the well-being, education, grooming of young people, and you're definitely an exception. So I appreciate that. I want you to know that I really enjoyed all the time that I got to spend with you, which kind of leads into the next thing, the feedback. Towards the end, I just went ahead and put in there that I didn't know why. I have no idea why I think like that. I have no idea where this preconceived stance on everything really started from. But when I can see like a genuine concern, then it's worth my time to chase down some of those questions of why do I think like that, or why do I dislike that, and that's kind of rare. Generally speaking, I have these ideas about who I want to be and how I want to be seen, and anybody, regardless of who it is, who's trying to encourage me to change that, I just kind of write it off. But the feedback, if it was coming from someone else, I don't know that it would have been as valuable. But based on our relationship and what I perceive to be genuine care and concern and interest, the feedback kind of roped me into thinking about the way that I think. And I have a tendency to scrutinize a lot of conversations and interactions, and what could I have said differently, or how could I have won that argument, or whatever. But I never really thought about why winning the argument was important. So thanks for the feedback. And lastly, really, I've mentioned it probably every week for the past several weeks. The segment on procrastination, I think, was really, as far as curriculum is concerned, intended to just kind of shine a spotlight on mismanagement of time, but not necessarily for introspective review of your characteristics and tendencies, aside from how they're specifically applied to time management. And what I really took away from the procrastination section was that I'm the most aggressive procrastinator that I've ever met, mostly because of pride and indignation, whether warranted or not. It's not really useful, and I've been able to modify a lot of my behavior in regards to my professional endeavors in trying to make progress towards not being so obstinate. So yeah, procrastination. I don't expect you to rewrite all of the course material because of how useful one particular part of it was to one student out of the hundreds and hundreds that cycle through your class. But and it was really an eye-opening experience to go through all that. I keep rubbing my nose. We're remodeling the house, and all the dust is driving me crazy. So I apologize. I think I've hit all of the bullet points for the video, but as we speak, I'm scrolling through to make sure. So I know it also says long pauses are a no-no, but I'm pausing for a second. Raise window, share, pre-post. Increase the arena, yep, talked about that. What have I discovered? Talked about that. And I know I talked to about at least 3 of these. So, 1 second. See, I told you, dust, meh. So, long story longer. Thank you very much. It was a pleasant surprise that I walked away from this class with something. I think I learned more about myself and the way that I think than I have in pretty much any class I've taken. And I think I've learned more about how to organize my thoughts and modify my behavior more in this class than really any other class I've taken. So thanks again. That's all you get.